Right, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about related to the same thing, which was a Bloodstock festival, massive rock festival over here in the UK, up in Derbyshire, and how the same event sort of was focal on a massive low point a year ago, and that turned into a massive high point this year, 2025. Last year, we were flying high with Zombie and our originals band, and something that Bloodstock had never really done before, because it's all focused on original bands, but they opened up the VIP to have tribute bands lasting at night as like an extra bonus in the VIP tent to people paying for VIP camping. And we got asked to play last year, 2024. So that was going to be our biggest gig to that point, and also a sort of foot in the door to try to get both our bands, Sins, in onto the other stages potentially at Bloodstock, because you get onto those stages, that's when bands start to get noticed. So that was going to be our biggest gig to that point. Everything was going great, and then 2 days before it, I did my usual thing of going up to Cheltenham from Plymouth, meeting up with my mate Elliot up there, and we normally do our sort of snack shop on the Wednesday evening before we drove over to Bloodstock on the Thursday. So we went to the supermarket as normal up in Cheltenham, and I was feeling a bit strange when I got there. I was feeling a bit off. Couldn't pinpoint what it was. Not something I'd really felt before. But walking around the shop, I was struggling to focus. Couldn't. I was sort of getting blurred vision. I was looking at items on the shelves, but I couldn't quite work out what they were. It's just something wasn't quite right. So we went to the till, and sort of the next few things that happened, I've been told about because I don't recall them. Apparently, I leant on the till and said, "I'm just going to stand here a minute." This is to Elliot, my mate Elliot, and he turned around, and apparently I was fitting. My eyes had gone in up into the top of my head. I was sort of fitting, shaking in front of him, and then collapsed. And next, I don't recall any of that. Apparently, they got like a duvet and put it over me, and I was turning blue. They had to sort my tongue out because I was not responding. And again, all of this is, I don't recall any of it. The first thing I recall is that I woke up and I was surrounded by paramedics in the supermarket, wondering what the hell had happened. Apparently I'd been out for a good 20 minutes or so. Had these paramedics around me. Don't remember what happened next then. And then I remember being in an ambulance, and my right arm, my shoulder area, being in absolute agony. So no one can really recall exactly what happened. Elliot was there and witnessed it, but whether he's erased it or it was just kind of in the moment, he just couldn't absorb what was happening. But whatever happened, I went down on my shoulder and I was in agony. So they had me on gas in the ambulance. Got to the hospital in Gloucester. Was there for hours overnight, and being given painkillers. And then after the whole night wait, they did an X-ray. But they only x-rayed the lower part of my arm for some reason. I couldn't tell where the pain exactly was coming from. I just knew I was in agony. I was obviously on painkillers as well. But the pain wasn't really focused like that. It was just generally in my arm. So they x-rayed the lower part of my arm, looked at it and said, "Yep, nothing broken. You're fine." So we went back to Elliot's, and I had to then message the band, who had left Plymouth and were on their way, not knowing any different, towards Bloodstock for again, well, like I said, it was going to be our biggest gig to date. Andy, who isn't in Zombie, he's just in Sins, he was there as well because I got him in just to be part of the festival. So all my 4 bandmates were in a car on the way up, and they got a message from me, waiting for the punchline that never came, saying that I was not in a great state and I'd been in hospital all night, and my shoulder was in absolute fucking agony, and Bloodstock wouldn't be happening. So they went to a services, sort of got stock of everything, and then went back home. So I kind of then, when anything like that happens, then DVLA, their kind of ruling, and the doctors, is that you can't drive for 6 months. My job is all driving and heavy lifting. But I didn't know, at that point, I didn't know there was any proper damage done. So I was taking painkillers, gigged not long after, maybe a week or two after, we were out gigging again, and I was literally playing drums with a sling on. Luckily, doing the zombie stuff, it's not very demanding. If I had to do anything where it involved the snare and the toms in one move, then I kind of blagged my way through it, like I do anyway, but even more so. So I had my arm in a sling for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then I thought something's just still not right. So I went to a doctor's, and he was looking at me straight on, and he said, "Your shoulders are squiff. You don't look something's not quite right there. Something's out of alignment." And he was feeling in my shoulder as well. So he wrote a letter to the hospital, and he said, "Right, get up there," because it was only about 10 minutes away. Get up there, hand this letter in, and that's me saying you need to get x-rayed right now, your shoulder, rather than the lower part of the arm. So I went to the hospital. Still had to wait a couple hours, I think 2-3 hours. Had the x-ray, and they sort of recommended that I start physio as well. Again, still not knowing what it was. And it turned out that when I went to the physio, they'd had a far more, they'd x-rayed the shoulder, which was more where the pain was. And they had looked at it more detail, and they could see a fracture. And then when someone higher up looked at it as well, he looked at it and said, "I can see 3 fractures. You've got a triple fracture in the shoulder." But by that time, I'd had 3-4 weeks of it already healing in that position. And now, this arm goes directly, and this one is at this angle. That I can't get that arm any straighter. So that's a year on. That's the damage. It's healed in that position now. I was told at the time, see how you're doing in 2 years, but you'll never make a full recovery from this injury, because it's that bad an injury. There's so much going on in your shoulder, so many muscles and tendons and all that shit going on up there, that it's rare that you get a full recovery when it's your shoulder, especially if they didn't operate on it, which they didn't. I don't know whether they should have done now, because obviously when the right x-ray was done, it showed damage that we didn't know at the start was even there. And it's and now, like I said, it's healed in that position. Still playing drums and all that, back driving now, but I was off for 6 months. And as part of all of that time off, I had to have MRI scan, EEG scan, I think it's called, where it's measuring the heart and all these scans, just to make sure they couldn't find anything that would potentially mean that I was at risk of fainting or collapsing or fitting, anything like that. There would be a risk to me being out in the public, driving behind the wheel, more things like that. If I was still doing HGV stuff, then it would be at least a 5-year interruption, probably the end of whatever job I was doing. Luckily, although I drive a lot, it's not HGV, it's just smaller vehicles, small vans, and obviously I being in a van now myself, living in this van, and there's my world revolves around me driving. So it was essential that I just did those tests, got them all ticked off. The expert, the neurologist and that, couldn't find anything that was a risk, and because I had nothing in the past as well, then they've kind of said that we can't see anything that's going to that represents a risk to future fitting or anything like that. There's nothing in the readings that show that. But obviously the thing that has come off the back of it is that I've now got this gammy shoulder. I'm probably at about 60-70% strength on that side. I was enjoying doing the gym up to the point that happened. and obviously I couldn't do that while I'm off. I'm considering going back and trying to get into that again, but my right side is going to be so weak compared to my left side, and that's something like it's up to me how much I want to push that now that a year's gone, and I didn't really push it in that time. I just focused on just trying to get back to work, sort my life out, still carry on gigging as much as I could, and get used to adapting the kit gradually. From when I first went back, I just had the hi-hats and the cymbal on my left side about 2 inches away from the snare drum, just so I could, because that's literally the movement I had in it. Now I've got a decent movement in it, again probably about 70%. I can't lift my right arm above my head, and again I might never ever be able to do that, because like I said, it's a they told me at the time it's a permanent injury, and it's up to me how much I push it to try to increase the movement, but also I don't want to risk doing any further harm to what I've got there as well. So yeah, but that was all a year ago, and that's what completely ballsed up my chances of playing Bloodstock, which should have been the biggest gig of our lives. But a year on, we put it right, and I'll cover that in the next video. Shit.